Hello, beautiful Aries. This is going to be your first timeless reading, which is nice, something without a date attached to it. When you find it, it is yours. If it sounds like something that makes sense to you, then perhaps you should pay attention. If it does not, then move on, because when one is doing a general reading and just putting it out there into the universe, it's not going to be the correct reading for everybody, as I'm sure most of you probably well understand. So I hope that this brings you something. And I was never a hopeless romantic, and for some strange reason that is what I'm becoming. And I'm not quite sure why something has been activated like that in me, but it kind of has. So I'm thinking about romance and those kinds of ideas about soulmates and twin flames and the meaning of this and the meaning of that all the time. And so I don't really believe in the school of thought necessarily that there's only one person for you. I think that's kind of ridiculous. Or potentially only one person for you. I think, there's I don't know how many people there are that would probably be great with you. Probably at least 1 million, if not more. Probably some of them are in places you'll never encounter them, and others will cross your path. But I'm going to call this reading the love of your life. And I'm going to do kind of a pick a card reading for this at some point later on. But right now, this is just going to be for us Aries, because I'm also Aries. This is going to be a love of your life reading. I'll be able to tell you how accurate it is for me right off the top. And then you can tell me if it works for you. And if it doesn't, just move on to another one or whatever, because it's impossible for them to all work for every person, because we are all different. However, there will probably be aspects that will make sense to you. So, because that's usually how it works in these general readings, because we Aries are one of these signs that, in my experience, and if you want to debate me on this or tell me I'm wrong, I will absolutely listen to your thoughts. I find that Aries you can generalize about more than certain other signs. The fire signs, all three of them, Sagittarius, Leo, and Aries, on some level you can do a bit of generalization, because we follow kind of a mode more than certain, like Pisces, for example, to me is kind of all over the place. Aquarius is kind of all over the place. Gemini, I mean, the range of humans that can be Gemini and how they behave is just like, I can't say that when I meet a Gemini I'm always going to know they're a Gemini. But the fire signs, we're a little different. And we are very fiery, and I think that we love very, very, very passionately and deeply, and so that makes us very interesting in the realm of love. So let's see what we've got here. I think I'm just going to start with 9 cards, and I'm going to leave them overturned, and then we'll just kind of pull them here and there and see what happens, which makes for a little bit of a different reading as far as seeing how the cards interact together instead of just doing it all at once. So let's go with this one. Now, I love this deck. It's Angel of the Night, or Tarot of the Night, rather. There is a card called Angel of the Night. I kind of already, I've barely used the deck. I've had it forever. I kind of have a love-hate relationship with it, because certain cards I absolutely adore, certain ones I don't, but I think it looks kind of gothy and romantic, so that's why I'm using it. But because I'm not super familiar with it and my eyesight is pathetic, I might be doing, what the heck's this card a lot of the time. So the 5 of Wands, as you can see, this card looks a little bit somber. And the 5 of Wands is sometimes about arguing. But we're looking at this as the person, your love of your life, okay? So I'm going to spin it that way, okay, which is the point of this. So you may already have this love of your life, or this person may be coming in. Now, we Aries are not the most docile beings in the world, and unless you're with another Aries, and I never have been, but trust me, I'd sure as hell like to be, because what could be better than being with somebody just like you? I think it would be great. Some people say it would be a nightmare, but Aries is supposed to be a sign that is compatible within itself, because only an Aries apparently can understand another Aries, and I could imagine that, because we're driven and we have all these ideas, and we're kind of, well, we're a little nuts at times, but whatever, in a good way. I can't imagine a person being with me never arguing with me, although, I mean, some people are not like we are, and they're not going to have an argument, and that's just that. Anyway, this card is, okay, when it's in the normal deck, when it's in the quote-unquote normal deck, the Rider-Waite kind of imagery, it shows a bunch of young guys with wands, and it's a card that often will come up for martial arts. You know, it just does. People who do martial arts get the card constantly. So, if your guy or girl is a martial artist, okay, that would make sense. Now, in this imagery, it doesn't show that, but it's still the same card and the same concept. So it could be somebody like that. It could be somebody who's in the military, because they always engage in that kind of stuff. Sometimes it's real, sometimes it's, you know, play fighting, you know, whatever, war games, that sort of thing. So maybe the love of your life is engaged in some of those activities. But generally speaking, the card is a card of arguments. Now, arguments can be quite brutal, or they can be banter. I mean, I've known lots of people who are couples who they have this banter that if other people heard it, they wouldn't think it was all that nice, but it actually is. I know that sounds insane, but it really is true. So I'm just going to say that we as Aries, we're very vocal, typically, and we say what we think, which doesn't always go over well. And so I'm going to say that the love of your life would have to either be very good at disengaging without making you more upset, or would have to be able to stand up to a little bit of either positive or negative banter, because we're a little bit verbal in the sense that we want to get our point across, and it's important. And obviously in a love relationship, you should be able to do that. I am of the thought process that if you're with somebody and you love somebody, you should be able to speak your mind, always, 100% of the time, and not get, well, I won't say you'll never get any flack for it. You know, the exchange of ideas is so important. You should not have to walk on eggshells, pussyfoot around your lover. That's ridiculous to me. Okay, so that's what I'm gonna hold on, that as the love of your life should be able to have that covered with you. The Hermit. So the Hermit is not about being alone. The Hermit is about being introspective and going within and tapping into all kinds of things inside you, seeking inner wisdom. So I'm going to say that the love of your life is going to have to be somewhat introspective, and perhaps you will too in that love relationship. Now, these two concepts are very general. I mean, very general. I mean, I'm trying to think. No, it's not necessarily true of every love relationship. Everything's different. Everybody's different. But I know how we are Aries, and sometimes we're very immature and flighty, which is, I think, a wonderful part of our personality is the youthful sort of aspect. But we also tend to really think about a lot of things. We may not be as earthy as the people who are the more deep thinkers, but we still like to. We're very intuitive. I think it's fair to say we're very intuitive. We really can be quite intuitive, and sometimes our whimsical nature might appear to not have a point, and it might not always be that well thought out on our parts, but at the same time, that is what intuition is all about, following your instincts, following your, what you think is the thing at the moment. And, I do think we as Aries are a little bit childlike, which I'm sure there are people who think that's horrible, but I think it's kind of great because we see the world through a different lens, and there's magic in that. So I think in romance we can be very fresh and new and alive and ever youthful in that way, which is, what more could you ask for? The Hanged Man, more introspection. Now this is really interesting because when I say the love of your life, so the love of your life, and I'm trying to think about this. I have a boyfriend and I'm trying to think if I can apply this to him, and I think I really, really can. He is so introspective, and I'm going to just say that maybe the person for us is somebody who's like that, somebody who really goes within and digs deep and is always trying to do the best thing possible, the wise decision, the follow your heart, I mean, we do that in a way too, but it's a little bit different than this real deep focus. I mean, there's some of it, there is some of it, but we're also kind of always in motion. So I don't know if we always are as good at certain other signs as going within and doing the whole meditative process and all of that stuff. But this is very, very interesting. Maybe we really need somebody like that to sort of ground us a little bit, because we certainly have something we can give to the table here in a love relationship that's amazing, that most people will never receive. So maybe what we really need is that person, that thoughtful, grounded person who, is not quite like we are. Although, boy, the idea of being with another Aries is so attractive to me that I don't know, but let's see how it plays out, because this is pretty interesting. So the Seven of Pentacles. The Seven of Pentacles is about, that whole working toward your goals, and usually it relates to work. So I'm going to say that the person, I'm going to say a guy in my case, the person we want is somebody who is a hard worker, who's very steadfast, who, sticks to whatever it is they want to do and stays with it and works toward a goal. I mean, we do that, but not in the way certain other signs do it, like the earth signs and stuff. They're so much more grounded and so much more willing to go through all the steps. If you're anything like me, you're quite willing to skip over 22 of the steps just to, to do the good or the fun or the successful part now, right? So when we have a person like that around, it can be very good for us. Just like we can jazz up their life a bit, they can, make us look at a different side that's also a good side. I mean, too much of this isn't good, too much of that isn't good, but when you put it together and you find the right connection, it can be pretty incredible. Now, this reading so far is quite tame. It is quite tame. And that is not really us Aries now, is it? The Two of Cups. Okay, now we're getting a little less tame. This is one of the cards I'm not so sure about. This looks to me like a woman, with her back to a mirror, that sort of thing. It's like, it feels like that kind of duality, and twos are about duality, but, I mean, they don't look like they're a couple, because it looks like the same person twice. But maybe what it's trying to show is the typical Two of Cups. We think of two people coming together. It doesn't only have to be in a love relationship, so that's kind of better. I mean, we're talking about a love relationship here. but it means more of a meeting of the minds on multiple levels. It's not just a sexuality thing. It's really a meeting of the minds. So that is very, very exciting. Two of Cups, you can't have a better card in a love reading. You just can't. I think it's better than the Lovers, quite honestly. The Lovers is hot and exciting and passionate and all that good stuff, which we love. Nothing bad there. But this is more of, you know, like a, if you want to call it a soulmate collection, a soulmate connection, something like that, where you're really on the same wavelength. You know, you can almost finish each other's sentences. You really know how the other person feels. You're so connected. It's way better. But, you know, this card doesn't really depict that for me completely. Oh, but what I was going to say is maybe the implication is that it's like the other side of you. You know, the missing piece of you, if you will, or the other side of you. It's a part of you, which is kind of exciting and a little bit hot, I will say. So let's move on. So the Seven of Wands, 2 sevens here. So the Seven of Wands is a card that's very active and trying to put this into words. I'm thinking of the 2 sevens with what we've already flipped here. And the Seven of Wands is that card that's a little bit defensive. It's a little bit defensive because it's very active, and while doing whatever you're doing, and I'm going to guess, Aries, that this is you in this relationship with this person. And I'm going to say, or me, because I'm also Aries, as we know, we tend to have a little defensiveness in us. Now, sometimes it's because we've been burned, or sometimes it's because of just the nature of the beast, if you will. But I'm going to say it's because when the right thing comes along, we might not recognize it at first, and we might be a little bit defensive, or maybe it's not our exact version of what we plan. Not that we're big planners necessarily, but the love of your life is going to be that person you can put down those defenses with, and that is very exciting. Very exciting. So, although, you know, other than our 2 of Cups, which is kind of showing that really deep, true connection, I'm feeling like this reading is a little too general. I want, you know, we might be having to flip more cards here. So this card is kind of cool, the 6 of Wands. So, see, this card to me does not depict the victory card, which is what we sometimes call the 6 of Wands, because it's a card of, you know, being recognized for your achievements and everything else, and you know, oh God, that's so gross. I'm so sorry. I'm so allergic, and I've got my window open, but I have to because I need the fresh air. So sorry about that. So it can be about being renowned for your achievements, recognized, you know, being victorious after some sort of battle. It could be you get a job or over other people, or you've done something fabulous, or, you know, whatever. Anything that you're victorious in, basically. But I don't know. Maybe it's the deck. The deck is, I think it's a really cool looking deck, but at the same time I'm not getting the normal vibe out of it. But maybe it's the person that you're going to be with is somebody who's very accomplished, very victorious in certain ways, or maybe the 2 of you together are going to accomplish fabulous things, because sometimes people who have that duality do come together as one and become something quite amazing. I can see how this does apply to my current life, but it's still not really jazzing me, because the 7 of Cups, another bloody 7. This is cool. Okay, so we've got 3 of the 7s. So the 7 of Cups is one of the cards I always got my whole life as a child. My mother was also a card reader. The 7 of Cups is that one of all the weird cups with very different items in them. Some of them look lovely, laurel wreaths and, you know, flowers and everything, and one of them has a scary old lizard in it that looks really super bizarre, and one of them has a snake. You know, it's like there are all these choices. I love the card because I think of it as a card of choices. And we tend to have a lot of choices, Aries. We do. I guess we make our own fate, and that's why we have so many choices. But it is definitely a card of choices. I mean, we have the option who we want to be with. We make our own life and our own world. So, kind of like, so how does this equate to your love? That you have to pick the right person, that, because I can't see it being like, okay, so together you're going to have all these choices. Well, you might. I mean, you will. I mean, who doesn't, right? But something about, because you have options in life, this is one option that you can pursue, because we don't really have to go after the love of our life, do we? No, we really don't. We might want to do something else, because this is a commitment. Death, change. Aries, you know that with us, we are so bloody the way we are. I won't say set in our ways, because we're not really all that set in our ways typically. But to be in a relationship requires compromise. I don't know about you, but I find that really hard. I don't love to compromise. I can, but we like to do things our own way. So again, this is still very general. I want something more specific. Come on. I want something that makes me feel a little bit more, you know, blown away here. So we're going to do 3 more cards, and we're going to see where we get with them. Because all the rest of it makes sense for me. But you know what? We haven't had a single court card. So we haven't seen a person. That's why I'm having issues with this. Six of Cups, my favorite card in the deck. And Ten of Swords, one of the worst cards in the deck. And the Page of Swords, a very nice card. Okay, let's dive into the ugly first. Of course, I had to flip more cards, didn't I? So the Ten of Swords. Okay, this is not really so bad in this connotation, because we're looking at the love of your life here. So he may have had defeats. He may have felt down. He may have felt like he was defeated, betrayed, all those things. Or she. Okay? So in this kind of a reading, it's not that terrible. But it does mean that you may have to be more empathetic than we typically are. You know, you may have to put yourself out there a little bit to be a bit sensitive to this person in that regard. I mean, I'm not saying we don't have our feelings like that too, Aries, but we're really good at picking ourselves up again and dusting ourselves off and moving on. We just are. Generally speaking, I'm not saying that some of you aren't very, very sensitive humans, because you are. But you know what I'm talking about. We're very good at motivating ourselves into the next thing. So if you have somebody who's not like that, who's, you know, really been through a lot, this all does make sense for me in my life. But the Six of Cups. Okay, I'm saving the best for last, and I consider this the best. So the Page of Swords. Okay, a person. Okay, so the Page of Swords is going to be an air sign, a Libra, Aquarius, or Gemini. But pages tend to be very, very young. So if you're very young and you're going to be with a young adult, now maybe this means that it's going to be, now it could just mean somebody has the tendencies, or it could be an older person who's very, very youthful mentally. So the Page of Swords is all about being a learner, a scholar, somebody who just sucks in knowledge, somebody who's like a truth seeker. Sometimes they're very, very moral. And they don't like a lot of BS, typically. They kind of cut through all of that and get to the point. But they can be very honest and true people. Very deep. You know, very deep, very interesting. So that could be your person. A Libra, Aquarius, or Gemini. It is not the person I have been with a Gemini. Wouldn't recommend it, not for me anyway, not for an Aries who's like I am. But again, that's quite a statement. I actually shouldn't be so general in that statement because, like I said, Geminis are kind of all over the place. They're not somebody you can categorize the way you can sort of categorize Aries. So that is our only court card. That is the only one that indicates a, sign of a person. So if you have one of those in your life, maybe this will be your reading. I don't, but he has some of those aspects, my guy. Six of Cups, my favorite card in the deck. This card shows nothing of what I think of as the Six of Cups. This is one of those cards that I just do not get. In the Rider-Waite cards, it shows children in a garden sharing cups with flowers. It's very magical and childlike and nostalgic and happy and fun. And so when I see this card, I think of a childhood connection, somebody that you can have that feeling with, that feeling of being really young and sharing everything, and that special connection that's kind of special and beautiful and magical. And I just love that. And so for me this works because my boyfriend, we were pen pals a zillion years ago when we were in our teens. So this card for me, well, it's always been in my life. It's always been in my readings. It's always had like really happy feelings around it. But now I think that part of the reason that that card was always there was because of what I'm experiencing now, which is kind of exciting. So, like I say, my guy is not an air sign, but he does have some of these tendencies. And your guy or gal might actually be an air sign. So, I'd love to know what you think of the reading. I'd love to know if it makes sense to you in your life. I kind of forced the last bit, so how do I put this into words without sounding like a crazy person? Who cares? I'm crazy. So had I not done the extra cards, there would have been no sign of a person named, if you know what I'm saying. So that was not what was really trying to come out, but then I pushed for something like that. So we got our Page of Swords. So you can take that as you will. Like, it really maybe wasn't supposed to emerge that way. I just had to push it, or, I mean, it could mean a lot of things. So, or this can even be an aspect of you, if you have this sort of piece of your personality. I hope it's a great reading for you. I hope you enjoyed my first timeless reading. And I hope you have a fantastic day thinking about happy things like love. Have a good one. Talk to you soon.